I think it's just for this.
addition of that resolution.
Yeah.
Or is that already on?
Was there an
okay.
amendment at your seats?
No, it's yours, let's take it to you.
Executive finance.
Just add item A on IT report. HP server auto warranty. That's the only thing.
Yeah, what did you do so?
Well, the other guy looked.
I don't know.
Fine.
You missed
He's answering those questions selectively.
It's embarrassing.
Last time I saw a guy like that, I asked him, he said, well, I had a fight with a tree. And the tree won.
I had a fight with the pavement.
Okay, Paul didn't leave me an amended one. Where is the new one, John? Where is the new item?
It's quite under 6A.
6A?
You go down and meet the
Okay.
payment, or does the payment come up and meet you halfway?
Really didn't.
Well, Tim is gonna be talking then anyway, so.
HP server auto warranty support funding.
Yep.
I waved to somebody and hit the left brake and went flying right off the top. You're lucky my wife forces me to wear a helmet when I ride.
Down yesterday, that triple for the
Landing
better than American Road.
Yeah.
Not knowing where I was.
There's only 59 roads in the United States, Great American Road, and that's considered the number one.
Really?
Over above the Florida Coast Drive and above the California Coast Drive.
And so the road in Trempealeau
Yeah.
fits right into that.
All of them 50 miles from Minnesota all the way down.
You need a copy of it, Tim?
You're gonna read it, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. Well, looks like we have everyone here. I'll call this property meeting in order at 9:02 a.m. I can verify that certification of open meeting law requirements have been met. Number 3 on the agenda is adoption of minutes of the previous meeting. You've had those in your possession. We have a motion to approve those,
Second.
and we have a second. Does anyone see anything that needs changing? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the, of the July 1st meeting signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, next item then is we'll take a couple of minutes for public comment. If you are watching this live and you'd like to comment, now would be your time. The number you can call is 715-538-1770. Usually we don't. On the property committee, we don't usually approve the agenda. I don't know.
That's interesting now that we got a amendment.
This shouldn't take very long today. Okay, we've given people some time. If you still would like to call, feel free to call in anytime during the meeting. Okay, next up, Samuels. So go right to that then. Morning.
So a few updates that I want to go over with you, and then also I know on Jeremy's agenda item is the Park Street discussion and the amended agreement on that, so I can speak to that. There's Rick. Rick and I have been working on that together with the city, so if you don't mind, I'd like to stick around and have discussion on that as well. So project, where we stand right now is that the excavating contractor has all of the over excavation and compaction done. They brought it up to pad level. They've got the footings that are there. We're working on some utility confirmations with Dewey Street as well as Hobson Street, and some elevations that we need to get from the engineers that I believe we nailed down most of that this week, so that Jurowski can start to get concrete started next week. So you'll see concrete start to be poured on that portion of the building sometime next week. Last week, Friday, we met with the judge and court commissioner and court administrator, and also the sheriff to finalize the documents for bid pack 2. There were some changes that were made in the court suite to be able to adjust some room sizes, some minor changes. Those have actually been sent back to the group for approval earlier this week. I anticipate that we will get approval this week to be able to finalize the documents, meaning that they will be approved by the court side of the process, and then the DOC. I did speak to them. They gave us a verbal approval based on the project as well, so that we will have those construction documents ready to go out for bid. Elements that kind of comprise the next process is that once we get that approval from them, then we can submit the drawings to the state for the building approval, which takes about 6 weeks to get done once we get in queue. We plan to still bid the project out while it's being done with state review. Okay, like I shared with the county board, we're going to give about a 3-week bid period, and we'll come back, do some qualification, then bring you guys the bids for recommendation. That'll all take place while the project is being reviewed from a code perspective. Venture has done a code compliance or a com check in regards to it, so when we see those come back from state review, sometimes there's minor comments, but it's not something that is significant changes. So we can run those adjacently, and that'll be the approach that we take. So the approvals that we have from the DOC is done. We should have a approval from the court sometime this week, and the utility component with the city we're working on as well in regards to the elevation, so we can keep the concrete going. The street agreement, you want to cover that under the other topic? Wait for that. Okay, we'll wait for that piece as well. The building oversight committee. I know we talked about having one last meeting with the Building Oversight Committee once we have approval, and I was thinking that perhaps some date the week of August 9th would make some sense. And maybe it's something we reach out to the group to see when we can get them all there. What I would anticipate with that last meeting with the Building Oversight Committee is to kind of talk about the process and thank them for that, and how the handoff would go back to the property committee in order for the board to take action to be able to remove or stop that Building Oversight Committee. We do need to have the approval by the courts and by the DOC because we need to complete the design phase. And I believe that design phase will be wrapped up by next week. So it could be after the 9th. It could be the following week. We wouldn't have to rush into it, but I wouldn't want to do it any sooner than that. So if we want to do something the week of the 9th or the 16th to have one last meeting with the Building Oversight Committee, I don't know that the agenda would be real long. Kind of bring them up to speed on where we're at, schedule, and then really the handover, and kind of thank them for what they've done, and then make sure that they're invited to be a part of this process, and the property committee as they oversee it. So that's kind of my thoughts on that Building Oversight Committee.
Randy, do you want to take care of getting that, or who contacts that or for Building Oversight? Oh, John knows. Okay, you want to take care of that then, John?
Kirk, I gave you a word on that, on the conclusion of the.
Mike, Tim?
When the dissolving the building committee, when that came up maybe a couple months ago, I did email John, Kurt, everybody involved, and urged that there be one last meeting to conclude the whole process. That I requested that that we don't just come to the board with a resolution that says the board dissolves the building committee. So I still think that is the appropriate step. There are many citizen members on the building committee, a lot of people. The committee has worked very hard, has coordinated this very well, and I think the committee deserves to be thanked and appreciated, somehow, some kind of public recognition and appreciation for what the committee has done, and not just somebody reads in the paper that the committee I'm on was dissolved. So essentially, I thank both, especially John, really, as chairman of both the board and the committee, for honoring my request and following through with a final concluding wrap-up, seal everything up, everybody knows what's happening, meeting of the building committee, then it goes to the board. So thanks, and for everybody else, that's what's going on here.
Yep.
Would it be appropriate to give them a certificate for,
Well, somebody have to
yeah,
put together a certificate,
Yeah.
but, you know,
would that be necessary?
it would be up to the chairman.
That'd be best for me.
Yeah.
I think the recognition would be enough. I mean, it sounds too much like grade school. I mean, the recognition would be enough, you know,
Okay.
in a formal conclusion to a formal dissolution of the building committee. Okay, the board acted to create the committee. But everybody knew it was an ad hoc committee. It had a specific purpose. Its life would end at some point. Now its life is ending, and we recognize that, and that's it. We keep moving on.
And they have had a very important role
Right,
in
exactly.
this whole process.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so that's what I had for the Building Oversight Committee. I guess, John, if you want to work and just kind of let me know some dates so I know, because I want to be here and I'll have to align it with my schedule. But, you know, if we did it the week of the 9th or the 16th, or it can even be later than that. You know, there would be no rush to be able to do it. It would just be nice to have it done sometime in the month of August.
I think August 16th is the regular board meeting, right? So probably right before that.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may not be there, John, if that means anything, but
But,
I may not be there.
Oh.
We leave on vacation on the 9th. We leave on vacation on the 9th, Mr. Tollefson, and we'll return on the 16th. So, and that'll be the second day of driving, so I'm not sure if I'll be here for the board meeting, but I guess you can have a meeting without me,
Wednesday
too.
was the regular board meeting.
However you would like to.
So,
That
I mean, if you want to do
would
it
probably
just
be nice,
before the
and
board
then they
meeting, or
could-
if you want to just do it at the
As an
board meeting and thank them
agenda
for their
item.
services or something like that.
Yeah. You want to take care again?
What do you think? Does that make sense?
It does. So you want to do a formal meeting with them, just to thank them, but then also recognize them at the county board meeting? Is that what you're saying?
At the same time,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. I don't know, I guess you could do it at the same time, or maybe just before.
Okay,
You want to take care of that with Paul then, John?
yeah,
Okay.
we'll figure out something. Or any time the week of the 9th would work, too.
It might make more sense to have it before, because you hate to have those people have to sit through
Yeah.
all our other business.
Yeah,
And just to get some recognition.
right.
And then do you want to wrap it up in August, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The only thing I was say is next time this committee meets, you could invite the other committee and do it right.
Sure.
But then you would miss the board meeting, so.
Any problem with making that decision now? On when we're going to have that meeting? I kind of hear from you, Rick, that you would rather see it prior to the county board meeting, if it's on the same day.
I think ideally it would be nice to do it just prior to, or at some point prior to the board meeting, instead of having it a joint meeting with the board, I think would be, yeah.
Because I'm not available the week of the 9th either.
16th.
I'm okay on the 16th.
Could do it at 6, because I know the last couple of board meetings, we've had early meetings at 6, training 6. So we could do that if you would like, and then there might be a little bit of a break.
We're so well trained now, we don't need any more
There is
training.
no more, there is no training on this.
No training
month.
this
No,
month.
no training this month.
You could bring donuts.
Yeah.
Cookies, whatever.
We really value your service on the board. Suggestions like
Here's a cookie.
It depends, is John going to make them, or?
Okay, so we'll plan on, we'll put it on
16th.
the agenda, and then that'll save you if you want to be at both meetings.
That'd be great. Yep, that'd be
One
great.
less trip for you then,
6
too.
o'clock on the 16th.
6 o'clock on the 16th.
Okay. And then the last thing that I have, I had paused Venture from doing any design work on the remodeling of the old building because we wanted to focus on getting bid pack 2 out, and with that wrapping up, I've talked to them about so that they can roll into that design and start to spend time on that. That work is an additional service to their contract, because initially we just hired them for the Justice Center, and that was not part of their scope of services. So I asked them for a total of what the additional service is, because there's additional services clause that's in their agreement that if we do ask them for additional work, which they did share with me, the additional services for the complete design, which is architectural, all of the engineering, all of the investigation of the building, because all they've done right now is just rough floor plans, is $350,000, which is fair in regards to the percentages on the size of the project that was there. And I'd like to have your approval for me to work with Rick and finalize that. It's just an agreement for them to do that work. You know, the board's already taken action that we're going to do it. I just paused them on doing the work, and we didn't give them an additional services agreement. And I'd like to be able to do that so we can get rolling on that design as well. The reason that I'd like to get going on it is the sooner that I can hone in on the scope, I can hone in on the budget. And it would be good to keep that moving along, so.
So part of their thinking, or that they were analyzing things, they must have been figuring that 350 into the 3 million, or weren't they with them? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's part of the budget, part of the overall project budget,
Yeah,
yes.
so it shouldn't change what's happening with the 3 million.
No. Yeah, it's just that we didn't give them an additional services at the time, because we wanted to, we just did a high-level floor
Right.
plan. They didn't get into the depth of the design. But I'd like to have them get into schematic design and hone in on some of that. You know, and we'll still have the documents that we can move forward with. It'll be a phased approach where there'll be a lot of design meetings with the groups. We're going to start doing what we did with the Justice Center with all of these groups. Right now, it's just been kind of high level. There'll be more meetings that will come up after that as well.
So you would like approval from this committee to?
Yeah, to work with
To work with the
Rick,
document.
and I think John has been, either John or Paul have been signing those agreements. It's not like it's a new contract, it's just an additional service. And it's it would be that 350. So if we can have the go-ahead to do that, then we can keep that moving along.
Is that a motion we should have in front of the committee, Rick, then? Or can we just?
I think if you give direction, because the money has already been approved, and the board has been advised of what the concept of the remodel is going to be. So I think just saying that, yeah, go ahead and work out the
Okay.
details, I think that should be sufficient.
So all board members in favor of them going through and drawing up a contract? Okay, go ahead then.
Don't want to stop now.
Yep. Sounds good. And that's the last thing I have, other than the street agreement that we can touch on the next agenda item.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, IT.
You want to explain the left wrist for the record?
Okay, if you just want to deal with the updates now, and
Minutes
then
should
we'll go
record
into
dirty
the,
bucks.
because
Yeah.
there's a separate agenda item for the resolution for the unassigned funds.
Yeah, I slept funny.
Okay.
So, the board meeting the previous evening, you all got to hear about our hardware fail. Did any of you have any follow-up questions on the power outage that caused the server rack issues?
All fixed.
Everything's working right now.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit about the power issue? Because that has been a repetitive issue for as long as I've worked here.
Well, I would refer to Jeremy on the power issue itself, but it appears from my end to be a giant mystery. So
And
Jeremy?
again, on my end, it was a mystery as well, because it wasn't a building power outage, because the generator didn't kick in, and we still had power everywhere else. I had no breakers that were tripped that serve the, I had no breakers that were tripped that served the server room.
The ring doesn't work on that one.
Oh.
Is it red?
It's on. It's on.
It is.
There you go.
By the time that I got here to the building to help out the IT staff, plugged in a circuit tracer on that particular server, or the outlet where it was no power, there was power. So I'm not sure exactly what happened. IT's not sure what happened, but for whatever reason, their, what was it, a server started running off of the battery power
Well,
packs.
both
which
racks
died.
run after the battery.
Yeah, and they started running off the batteries, and the batteries died. So,
The batteries are just there to be a bridge till the generator kicks in, which didn't happen because the whole building didn't go down, the
Yeah,
whole
there
room
was-
didn't go down, it just one part of one circuit.
yeah, there was no reason for the generator to kick in because it was just basically a group of 4 outlets.
And the design of the new data center is different. We would have a room UPS. So in addition to being on the generator, the whole room is on a UPS and has a certain amount of time before it kicks off. But there would be alerts and warnings saying something's wrong with the power coming into this device, and it will be something that we'd be able to identify pretty quickly. Here, the NICs that are, the network interface cards that are in the devices never sent out a message. And we used to have a redundant method for keeping track of that. If any of the servers dropped, we have an environmental monitor in there that we send out pings. Problem was is that our network wasn't reliable enough, so we were getting pings, and so then Jeremy and I are getting texts at all hours of the night that such and such server dropped a packet or whatever, and it's like, oh, thank you for telling me that. But so it became not usable. So we have a limited amount of time to deal with those kind of situations, and we weren't warned with enough time.
And unfortunately, the way I understand it too, even if there's no way we would have known, because by the time you knew there was a problem is when the batteries died.
Right.
So, and again, I only live a few blocks away, but I didn't have my phone on me, and the dispatch was trying to get a hold of me. They got Daryl here quicker than I do, who lives in Taylor. They were about to send the cops to come get me to come down and see what was going on. But again, by the time I got here, I can't narrow down what the problem was, because there wasn't a problem on my end, and we can't figure out what the problem was on there. And so it was just kind of a fluke.
Well, the fluke helped us learn some things about our setup. One thing we knew already, and that I had presented to this property committee in the 2 previous meetings, is that we got to have production servers covered under warranty. That cost us, we would have been up and running by Thursday. Instead, we were up and running the following Wednesday because it just took too long to get through the process and had to pay for the services from HP. It's not, you just get on a different tier when you're not under warranty anymore. And so with this, I found a vendor that not only do they provide the hardware support for equipment, and they monitor it, so if something fails, if a disk fails, we'll get a replacement part. We don't have to call them or anything, just like your arrangement with HP. But they also provide first-level support. So if we have a system that won't boot, or a server that won't come up, or a port that isn't talking, we have a resource that we can contact these people on these out-of-warranty servers, and then instead of going through the slow lane at HP, oh, I'm sorry, this isn't covered, and spending the next day trying to get help, you immediately have somebody that can help you with that device, and then they can help you identify the problem, and then the part is on its way. So we knew this was a need, and unfortunately, we just didn't quite make it to the finish line before the resolution got here. We also learned that our backup system has some holes. We basically built the backup solution to handle the 2 most critical elements. One is when people make mistakes and delete something and we need us to get it back. That's 90% of what we do with our backups, is doing restores on a onesie-twosie basis. Like, I did this 2 months ago, it's gone. We do a lot of those. The system is also designed for a major emergency where the whole thing gets wiped out and then we can rebuild it. But one volume at a time restore. We hadn't really counted on something like that. And so when we tried to do the restores to a different volume, because the agent was running on a server that doesn't exist anymore as far as the backup appliance is concerned, we weren't able to just pull the volume and restore it magically somewhere else. So we had to pull all the files individually. Well, once you start pulling files individually, you start running into problems that Microsoft built through years of neglect. Paul and Rose and several department heads have had data on those servers going back 20 years. They just keep carrying forward. And as they get carried forward, the names of the files keep getting longer and longer because they get deeper and deeper. So now we've exceeded a character limit on what you can move using our backup appliance. So every time we try to do a restore, we're trying to mass restore everything, goes through, hits the clerks, which is the second folder down, and then immediately chokes because it can't handle the 300 character file name. So, and then it doesn't tell you which file that is, so you have to go through manually through all the files to find which ones are over. And we didn't even hit the second folder, and we were already on over a dozen, and it was going to take weeks to get that back. So we are working with our backup appliance creator to find a way that we should streamline that going forward to make sure that if we have to do a volume to different volume restore, how do we make that work without the Microsoft file length interfering with the process? So we're working on that, and everybody was really great to us while the whole thing went on, and I'm hopeful that we don't have anything like that again.
I have a sort of a tangential question, but does Rose still back up everything on paper?
No, this is data files. Stuff that, like when she makes an agenda or she creates something, this isn't something that her actual records, that's different. That goes somewhere else. This is just.
You wouldn't know then if she still has everything on paper.
Well, she has everything scanned. They're electric. They're digitized. That's the word I'm looking for. And that's through Fiddler. So that's cloud-based.
She'd be the person to ask that question, I guess.
Yeah, she's well prepared. But like for people's data files, if they create an email or they're working on a text file and then they save a Word document or Excel document and they share it with the rest of their group, that's the kind of files that went unavailable here.
On another topic, well, I guess it's related due to the generator, but how much of the operation will the new Justice Center generator cover?
Generator is sized for the entire structure.
It is sized for the entire structure.
And then the room UPS is designed for,
I think it's 10-minute run time.
but that's the whole dispatch center plus the dispatch closet and our closet.
Yes.
And if dispatch is down, I'm guessing the generator's gonna kick on
Yes.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I don't know if the whole building is aware of. The battery backup and the UPSs are not a long-term solution
No.
for power. They're built
Shut it down.
to give you enough to make the connection with the generator.
Just a bridge.
Yep.
All right.
Any other questions on that ordeal?
I'm assuming that the resolution we're going to address today is an attempt to solve this.
Yeah, now
dilemma.
that the horses have fled the barn for one of our servers that are out of warranty, yeah, we're jumping into that. One of the things that has cropped up, we started getting reports a couple weeks ago that our old misspelled TrempealeauCounty.com, Tremplo county.com, somebody bought that domain. It's registered to a couple servers in Suriname, and now they've moved themselves to the top of the Google and Bing search.
It is. I search you guys, it's fantastic.
And there's a cash advance button is the only link that appears to work on the thing. But it's a screenshot. They've pulled cache copies of the old website from like October of 2016 or something. And some of the links that go external actually still work. You can get to Tapestry through it, but you can't get to the online mapping. But yeah, there's a big button on the front page about cash advance. So if you get people thinking that you're in the cash advance business, that would probably be why.
That's the reason.
We've reported it to multiple organizations, organizations that we contribute to. TCC is working on it. I've reported it to CISA. We've reported it to Google, Bing, Yahoo. I go every day, if I remember, I go out and click on that search and see if it's still at the top, and then I screenshot it and report it to Google saying, this is an invalid site that's trying to spoof a government agency. So, not a lot we can do about it, but just so you're aware.
Would it help if we just spelled our name right in the first place?
I'm not going to go down that path since I wasn't.
The thing that happens, John, is like if you type in Trempealeau County, like how Google you to find your agendas, when Google comes up, that's the top search. So if somebody looks at it and it says Trempealeau County the right spelling, it's just like what he's saying, the address is the incorrect spelling, but they think they're going to your website.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter how we spell it. We knew this was a possibility when we let the domain go, that somebody might buy it and use it for nefarious purposes. But when we talked with TCC about it, and they go through Airstream, and they didn't have any examples of it being so in the past. I mean, it's just really not that handy a domain name. And I didn't really want to pay the $130 a year to maintain a domain that we weren't using. Hindsight being 20/20, I think maybe that would have been a good investment. So, yeah, moving forward, we've also been approved. We have a second domain now. So TrempCounty.gov, TrempCountyWI.gov is our domain, and that's going to be like a test domain for us. It won't be something we switch to, but I wanted to grab it while they're letting us. If they were going to let us shorten it down to Tremp, maybe they should have just let us be TCWI.gov, but I'll swing for that one next. We spent, let's see, from July 5th through the 20th, we had 15 days. We sent out 5 randomized phishing emails to the whole staff. Each staff person would have gotten 3 of them, randomized out of the group. Unfortunately, we had a 13% hit rate, and these weren't real challenging ones. Some of you did a really nice job in spotting them. Some of you ignored them, which is good. Nobody present clicked on any of them, so congratulations for that.
I contacted Kathy. I don't know if that was legit, part of the test or not. I contacted her twice. I said, this looks fishy.
Yeah.
What do you think?
We accept that as an acceptable option, is contact. Yeah, I got pulled aside several times by people. What is this? I'm like, if you don't like it, delete it. And one of them was for an offer for Disney Plus, and I thought for sure nobody's going to click on that from their work address. So that one was particularly disappointing. But it's true. The bigger the carrot, and the more out on non sequitur it seems, a certain type of person is just going to click on it because it can't possibly. Ooh, that's a pretty good deal. I should do that.
Nobody in this room. Nobody in this room.
So we are moving forward with multi-factor authentication. We have a meeting next Tuesday with the contractor to help us set up the third and final piece. And once we've piloted that, we'll be rolling those tokens out so that it'll add that extra layer of security that even if you do get phished, they can't phish your token with you. So hopefully we can get that rolling this fall and mitigate some of that. That's all I had outside the resolution for today.
Okay, any other questions for Tim? Okay, then, the agenda was amended to include this resolution on transfer of funds. I'll go ahead and read that, and then we can start discussing that. Okay, transfer from the unassigned general fund to IT for HP server out of warranty support. Whereas the Trempealeau County Information Technology staff can no longer secure and support out of warranty servers running production loads, and whereas in 2021 and 2022, we have 9 production servers that are no longer supported by the manufacturer, and whereas the security components identified in the 2020 security evaluation now requires that all production servers are covered under a support agreement for firmware and patches. And whereas the security elevation results were not available prior to the completion of the 2021 budget, and whereas the estimated cost to secure a third-party support contract to cover the expected production life of our equipment from August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2023 for the enhancement of the county's security status is $15,762.32. And whereas the purchase of these services will greatly assist in allowing existing in-house staff to mitigate security issues, protect county data, and prevent a loss of critical services. Now, be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors approves the transfer of $15,762.32 from the unassigned general fund to account 101.51450.210 for the purpose of securing a third-party support contract to assist in improving the county's technology and security situation. Introduced by the property committee.
Move for adoption.
Okay, move for approval,
Second.
and we have a second. Okay, you want to go ahead and give any explanation, Tim?
Okay, so the 9 pieces of equipment run across the gamut. They include some in the sheriff's office, some in the courthouse. They're all HP servers, and I picked July of 2023 as an end date because that should get us to the point where we would have replacement. I think the data center, even if the data center isn't built at that point, the replacement data equipment will probably be up and running. That is the goal. So by bundling it up, instead of getting a number that got me through the end of this year and then bringing it back to you in the budget in a month and a half, I got the best price I could get for the full term. They reduce the number if you buy it all up front. As I spoke before, it includes first-level support. If it's one of the items that this company is supporting, you can call them with any questions about firmware, software, why won't it boot, and you can get some answers. And then they also remote monitor the equipment so that if a drive fails, they'll send us a replacement, things like that.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Tim or any other comments?
Excuse me.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the resolution to transfer funds from the unassigned general fund to IT for the HP server signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and I'll be passing this around and we'll sign it. Okay, thank you, Tim, and moving on to Jeremy.
I was gonna say, whoever wants to talk about this street agreement, because it's under my name, but I didn't put it on there.
Okay, is that what you're here for?
All right, so a couple weeks ago, I guess a few weeks ago, Dave Schofield from SEH, which is the engineering firm that's doing the design for the city for the Hobson rework, reached out to me. And he said, hey, you know, based on the schedule of where they're going to be bidding Hobson Street, that they have the ability to design the entire rework of Hobson Street and then bid that out as a separate schedule for the work that we were going to cover, rather than having 2 different firms design it and rather than having 2 different firms do the construction. And he asked if I thought that would be something that would make some sense, and I said absolutely. get to work on it. So we needed to do an amendment to the agreement, and that's what the amendment is about. The scope of what you're paying for is no different, and the city has actually finished that design and they've bid it out already, so we have a number. The number for our portion of the project is $501,000 for that utility rework and the street rework from our campus out to Main Street. And we had budgeted 460 grand for that work in the scope of our project, so it's a little bit more, but doesn't surprise me in regards to just the scope that's there. Overall, the whole project is still under budget because of the savings that we had in Bid Pack 1 and the savings that we had in the demolition portion of the project. So the amended agreement is basically just saying they're going to take care of the design. They're actually having their contractor do it, and we're just reimbursing them for the work that's been done. And the way that they did the bids, there was no question about what was included in their scope and our scope. It was a very clear definition. This approval is something that they just need a signature to amend the agreement that we had from the original Park Street agreement, and the amendment then will finalize the total agreement so that they can do the public distribution for the closure. So all of the first steps have been done, other than notifying the public to say, hey, we're going to have vacation of Park Street. So this amendment would be something that we need to move to. So I know Rick has an amended agreement. I don't know if it's something that we can share with them, if we want to read that to them. And then there is just an exhibit that shows the extent of the work that we're doing. So.
And Ashley had reached out to me from the city of Whitehall as well too. Part of it was also a timing issue and the funds that they're getting for some of the work on the street that they needed to move forward. They're opening some form of bids on the 10th of August. I don't know what exactly those are, but, and their intent would be is to approve the addendum to this Park Street agreement on that date, assuming that this committee approves it as well. As Kurt indicated, it really is flip-flopping who's going to be responsible for putting together the design, paying for it up front. The city's going to take care of essentially everything, and then we're just going to pay them our portion, as Kurt indicated, that amount. So this addendum is just flip-flopping those responsibilities under the current agreement. I can read it, but it essentially is that the city's going to be responsible for contracting and paying for the design of the plans consistent with the Schedule A that Kurt referenced, coordinating, completing, and paying for the work, contract and pay for the relocation plans. The Hobson plans and the relocation plans, those are terms that were defined in the original agreement, and so it refers to a specific portion of the project. Coordinate, complete, and pay for the work on the relocation plans. All the work would be performed pursuant to and in compliance with those plans and would be put out for bid. They would obtain any permits and approvals. Again, it really is just flip-flopping what we were originally responsible for, now that they are going to be responsible for it, and we're just essentially going to pay them. And so then it does the same for the county. It says that we are no longer responsible for this, but instead we're going to be responsible for this. So if you want more details, I can certainly give you more, but that's what it is.
This approach, in my opinion, is actually a much cleaner scenario. The Hobson Street rework, because it came in after we actually started talking about the project and the timing of it, the way that it worked out, this is the best scenario you can have, because the work is consistent with what the city is doing. It's just a compensation. We know that you've been treated fairly in regards to how it's been broken out. They did have water main included in Schedule A that they backed out, and they showed that value. So it's a great approach. So I think it goes back to just showing how well the city and the county have worked through this process together. It's been good.
I've got one reservation that I want to
Sure.
express. I always have to. All right. The reservation I have is this seems to shift, it shifts responsibility to the city at a critical juncture there as far as the continuation of the project. And I'm not, so is SEH then going to be the primary, the firm that's mostly responsible for this? It means we, the county, have to depend on the city of Whitehall to get something done in order for the whole project to continue. That's my reservation.
Oh, no.
Suddenly we're in a bind, or possibly in a bind.
Yeah, no, the timing of when they're actually going to get that work done doesn't impact our schedule at all. So it's consistent with what we were going to deliver before in regards to the routing of the utilities. And I think it's the opposite, because before there was a potential where if we had an issue in the spec that someone took objection to, it could be a point of contention. In my opinion, it removes all of that. You're just paying for this rework that we were going to do, because if they weren't going to do Hobson, we were going to take it all on and take the project on. But because of the Hobson component, I think it actually clears up the issues in regards to responsibility, and I think it's a much clearer picture, in my opinion.
And ultimately, the city was going to take over, the future
maintenance.
maintenance of all
Yes.
of that. But we were going to be responsible until they signed off on it. We were responsible. The county was responsible for that. So it does kind of switch that a little bit as well too, where now it's completely on them. They don't have to sign off on anything that the county is responsible for. It's all on them to do it up front and be responsible for it up front. So there also that component, I think, is also a benefit to the county as well.
And I don't see them holding us up at all. Their timing of that, we're actually going to start work yet this year, and the infrastructure will be there well before we need to be able to occupy. So.
And I got an email, and I think you got it as well too, last night, later in the day. And so from, who was that again?
Dave.
And so he had some language in there that I'm still tweaking the language to the addendum. So since I got that last night, I haven't had a chance to incorporate that fully. Ultimately, I guess what we'd be looking for today is that, excuse me, that this committee is in favor of the addendum as we've described. We'll tweak the language and then ultimately get it to you for signature. As long as you guys are comfortable with that, I mean, we'll obviously have the county's best interests in heart when we're doing this.
So we will see it before we approve the addendum, or should we be approving it today?
Excuse me. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. If you want to see the language of it before you approve it, that I don't have a problem, or no problem with that. It just, they want it approved prior to their August 10th meeting, because that's when they want to approve it, because they're going to open up bids and they want to start work basically right away.
What does the committee feel? Should we just approve it?
I'm still, I'd like to hear from, may I have your?
Go ahead, Tim.
We're so fortunate in having the representative of the city of Whitehall here on this committee. And I would like to ask the representative from the city of Whitehall, bearing in mind the city of Whitehall's past history of installing water mains and drilling additional wells, are you really confident in asking the city of Whitehall to take over this portion of the project?
Can I clarify that?
Yeah.
So the city of Whitehall put it out for bids, and Haas Construction is the low bidder. They haven't awarded it yet, but they're the apparent low. So they have a contractor that's doing it. It's not per se the city staff that's doing the work, but it would be a contractor that's contracted to the city, if that's the question that's referenced there. So.
No, we're talking, we both share this history of
Oh, it's
10 years of Whitehall.
It's an inside joke
water
that I don't
mains.
know about.
No, it's not a joke. It was definitely not a joke. Of drilling wells and putting in water mains.
I think it's safe to say that the city of Whitehall, when it comes to their, at least their water utility, is not famous for long-sightedness and looking at what the needs for the future are, which could be reflected in, the, I don't know how many thousand feet of 1-inch water main that they had installed years ago. I still don't understand that. That
We
really
look at,
didn't
we
make
go
any
out, I
sense.
visited as an archaeological site from
Yeah.
time to time. You look at the sign.
Yeah. So I guess I kind of understand what Mr. Zeglin is saying. It's just that, I personally don't have a firm grasp on what the agreement is and what it entails.
And I think then we get it to you in writing, and we wanted to explain it to you. We do have a timeline that we do need to get this to the city, so I don't know if that means we need to have another meeting. Again, I apologize, we're getting it to you late. We just got some of the information, briefly yesterday. So what we wanted to do is have an amended, we want to have the original agreement, and then we want an exhibit that actually shows where Schedule A was, and that's what we wanted to have consistent, so it was in front of you. It came in late, apologize, so we're giving you a verbal description. SEH is the engineer. They have a great reputation in regards to engineering design. So to be able to deal with the performance of the infrastructure, I'm confident in that you're not going to have.
Who's the individual doing the work?
Dave Schofield. As far as removing any doubt that you have in that, I'm confident in the approach. I think the county and the city are both being treated fairly. I think they're treating each other fairly in the agreement, but I do understand that you would want to see it before you approve it, so.
But
I have a
like you
couple of
said,
questions, too.
you have put the burden on the city now instead of leaving us as being responsible by making this amendment. Is we're letting the city do it. If they make a mistake, they're going to have to pay for it. Or if we keep it on our side and there's a mistake made, we may have to come in the end and pay.
Potentially.
There is a potential in the other agreement that we had a clause in there that the city needed to approve our installation. And because they're going to take over the long-term maintenance of that infrastructure. In this component, you're just basically writing a check. And the county's position should be, am I writing a check for a fair amount? And I'm telling you, they've competitively bid it out. They've done it in a way that is transparent, and you are paying a fair amount. You're paying the same amount of whether you would have bid it or they would have bid it, and they've made a clear definition in their bid documents. So you're being treated fairly. And I think the line of responsibility is much cleaner in this agreement than what we had in the original one, and I would recommend the amendment.
So expressing their concern is we've put the ball in their park.
Yeah.
I have a question for Rick. If we approve this as a resolution here today now, which it sounds like this is really what you want, will it still have to go, will the addendum to the Park Street agreement, will that still have to be approved by the full board?
It will not.
It will not?
No.
So this is it?
This is it, yep.
Questions I have about the project. So this one here, this would be the replacement of the water mains and the sewage lines and stuff in the street as well as the street
In
repair
Hobson,
replacement.
correct.
Is this going to include, is the new building going to be hooked up? Is that where the main sewage is going to go? Is that where the main water is going to come from?
Right now, we have, the connection is in Dewey Street. We're looking at a couple of options of whether we do make a connection in Hobson from ours. But right now, the connections are to Dewey Street because of elevations. There's a potential that we may take one of the sanitary and put them to Hobson, and that's outside of this scope of work, the scope of work.
That's, yeah, that's, I'm just getting clarification.
Yep.
If they're putting it down new,
Correct.
if it's already dug up, instead of trying to go across
Yep,
Highway 121,
yep.
but I get elevations and issues and
Correct.
whatnot. Now, with this is outside of the realm too of the replacement of the storm line that's gonna be coming through my front lawn.
Yes,
So this will be one contractor doing the street, replacing what's there, and then your contractor.
will be
tying up
inside the
with them.
confines of your campus. Yep.
Okay, and then that one is still on schedule for later this year too, for the
Yes.
replacement in the front of the lawn, because I'm trying to deal with another parking lot issue
Oh,
up
yeah,
there too.
yeah.
So,
Yep,
that was my main thing, just if you're already gonna have that all dug up,
right.
instead of trying to tie into the clay sewage line on
Right.
the other side of the highway.
Yeah, and we got the engineers working on that. Yep.
Okay.
So there'll only be the one water hookup for the new facility?
As far as the water main? Yeah, the water main will come in in the one water location, yep.
Yeah, that one I was aware of, as it sits now, that would be on the north side of the building.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, what be the pleasure of the committee?
I'll move to approve the addendum.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
When all this starts, and they're going down Hobson and Park and all that, this is planned for this year?
Yes.
Okay, what is that gonna do as far as our parking and people getting to and from the courthouse?
It's a great question. The foot traffic from the lots that we're talking about using at the church building and at the shared parking lot, we will have to have accommodations there so that pedestrian traffic can be there, but vehicle traffic is obviously done. They'll have to come back from the other side there, yeah. The anticipated, or the schedule that I saw from the city is that Hobson was intended to have all of that done from Main Street to the end of your campus by the end of this year before freeze up with the base course. And then they're coming back later on with the finish layer. That's the intended schedule. How that shakes out in regards to weather is yet to be determined, but that would be that's the intended purpose.
Yeah, and I'm going on to that too. The one that I've reached out to, tried to get a hold of Mark here from the city, is my concern with that area is when Hobson Street gets closed, is how do we take in detainees, inmates, because that is the only secure location to bring in inmates is in that garage. And if we close Hobson Street for any length of time, I still need to have a way to get a police vehicle into that garage to do a transfer of inmates. Plus, then the other stuff that affects me solely, the stupid stuff like how do I get my garbage picked up? Certain things like that. So that's some stuff I'll address in the parking lot issues that But the inmates is a big one. I haven't talked to Brett about that yet, but because I haven't gotten an answer from the city on what their timing was and what I can do to help make accommodations for that, so.
Okay, any other questions or comments before we vote on this amendment? Or
I was just wondering, in the front of the courthouse, are we gonna reserve spots for the public? So our employees are not taking up the whole front of everything around this courthouse, nobody can get here.
Yeah, that's, again, some stuff I'll address here when you're done with this.
The only other thing I wanted to add in regards to the addendum, we can certainly get a finalized version out to this committee via email, so you guys can see it before it actually gets signed. Just if there's any questions, it's going to be the timing of it, making sure that we get it done and to them in the timing that they want.
So the city can keep moving along.
Correct, yep. They just need it by certainly no later than August 9th, because that August 10th is when they'll look to approve it. I'd like to get it to them sooner than that, of course.
Yeah, I'd like to get it sooner so we can get that public notice out for the vacation of Park Street, because that's all hinging on there, so the sooner the better.
Is Chuck going to sign it?
Yes, go ahead. What's that?
That would be my
Chuck will
intent,
sign it.
would be have Chuck sign it, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments? Questions?
Did you? I don't remember. I don't remember.
No other questions? Okay, all those in favor of the addendum signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so that's taken care of. And then Jeremy, parking lot? Or you want to do your?
Well, it doesn't matter, they're all gonna tie together anyway. I'll start with the basics of the parking lot. So I was told yesterday asked yesterday that we're gonna go ahead and close off our main parking lot behind us here on August 9th. So I did send out a email to all staff yesterday, the day before, whenever that was, to kind of let everyone know that this parking lot's gonna be closed off. They're gonna end up putting a fence up around the back parking lot and start some excavation work back there. As it sits right now, Park Street's gonna remain open until the notification goes out. So I did let people know they'll still be able to park on Park Street. We're gonna end up probably closing 4 of those spots on the east side, just where the 2 egresses are into the parking lot to accommodate the excavation vehicles going in and out and whatnot. So at the time being, when the parking lot closes, then all 3 of the entrances to the back of the building will also close, which will be the one here for land management, and then the 2 main ones that most of you guys use coming in and out of the building. Main entrance at the front of the building and the quick trip side are going to be the only entrances at the majority of staff and you guys will be able to use at that point. Sheriff's Department will have a second entrance that they can use as well. We're going to have access to the parking lot across the road at the ball field, and then we should be able to use the one that's across the street next to the gazebo area and the bank. That's also a city parking lot at that point too. I did get permission still from the city to leave the county vehicles as it sits now into that lot over by the ball field where we won't get towed or ticketed. But I do have the highway department coming out tomorrow morning to rip out the trees in the grassy area out in the front of the building. And then they'll be back early next week to remove all of the lawn, the topsoil, and put a gravel base down there. I'm hoping, that's what I was looking for the timing for the stuff on the front of the building, the storm system that needs to get replaced, because highway department will run their hot plant until, somewhere between the end of October till about deer season. So I'd like to make sure that that stuff is done before that happens, so I can get the blacktop put in, so we can accommodate the parking up front through the rest of the winter. And then at that point, we'll move the county vehicles up there, because then they'll be in camera shot all the time. They're closer to, for everyone to use, and then there'll be a handful of spots set aside in there for handicap, and then just regular general parking. When it comes down to it, each department, I'll also be asking that the staff that's in the building does not park on the street in front of our building, just because we still need to accommodate for guests that are coming in and out of the building. It's going to get problematic if we ever have a jury trial at this time too, when we're adding an extra 30, 40 cars to the front of the building, especially when we start having more construction people in town. So parking, since this has all started, everyone's been aware parking's going to be an issue at this point. There's not a lot we can do to get around that. The Hobson Street closing was a concern of mine. If we had a lot of people parked in that lot by the ball field, that we made sure that there was a sidewalk available that people could use still to walk from there up Hobson Street to get to the front of the building, instead of asking them in January in a snowstorm to walk all the way around town just to get here into the front of the building. So concessions will have to be made for pedestrian traffic to get through. But again, I was looking to try to get a hold of Mark from the city to get clarification on when they were hoping to start. The vehicle traffic in and out that we're going to have to accommodate, which would be, again, our cities bringing in people that they've arrested, and the healthcare center delivering food to the jail. So those things all go through the secured garage up there. So those are a few of the things that we still need to try to hash out completely, but are on the agenda to try to get corrected before there's too many issues. The other thing with the closing of the back doors is I would like to tell each department that the after-hours meetings that a few people, sometimes we have the 4-H or the FFA or the Boy Scouts or whatever, they come in. We're going to lose access to the back doors that I could unlock and let them in and out after hours. Now the only way to accommodate that is to set the front doors to unlock, which poses a security risk for the general public just having access to the building, especially that close to the 911 center. So I did talk to the clerk's office yesterday, and I'm recommending that we don't have any after-hours meetings other than the board meeting that has to be open to the public, or any of the, like the Board of Health and stuff like that meets after hours. But meetings that are open to just anybody, we shouldn't have those here anymore because of security issues that we're going to have, unless we want to staff that front door with a deputy 24/7. Or when they have any type of meeting, and that's going to be a cost that somebody else is going to have to take on. So I did talk to the Parks Department. Now, people that are the groups like the FFA, the 4-H club, stuff like that, they are able to use the shelters that are out at Petrix Park free of charge. Any youth groups or any nonprofit groups, any of that stuff can use those structures out there free of charge. So the clerk's office is aware of that. And that way they'll forward anybody that's calling in to look for a meeting to land management to try to schedule something out there. So we're not completely taking away the option of people have the rooms, just the option of maybe having one in the middle of December in a comfortable setting. So there's a lot of little things going on, but we're working on those right now. Other than that, like I said, the parking lot closes August 9th. Project-wise, you see we finished replacing the carpet out here in the hallway.
Looks good.
Yeah, it looks a lot better. That one, we've tried to clean that so many times, and we had enough on hand that we went ahead and redid all of that, repainted the walls, and that project, I think, turned out very nice. We also got a mini split unit added to the 911 center. It's a air conditioning unit and a heater, and it's hooked up to the emergency generator as well. So if power were to go out, as it sits now, the generator should kick in, keep their computers running, and then keep the room temperature controlled, because our main air handling units are not hooked up to the generator as it sits now, so we've got them covered. Plus they can use it as supplemental heat and or cooling for now too. So we got that project taken care of. Like I stated earlier, the highway department will be here tomorrow morning around 6 to remove those trees in the front and then back the following week to get it ready, and just, like I said, a gravel base for the time being. And as soon as we get the utility work completed that's going to be running through our lawn area up there, then we'll have come back and put the blacktop down. And I think it was 22 parking spots that we're going to be gaining up there. 15 of those we'll set aside for the county vehicles, and then leave the rest up. The nicest thing is we'll have 2 handicap spots, van accessible, right at the front door, which is something that we haven't had since I've been here, and so probably ever. For the most part now, you got them, people that need van accessible parking have to park here in the back, and then go all the way around to the front of the building, which is not very friendly if you're in a handicapped spot, especially in the middle of winter, to try to do that. So the issues that I brought up before with our chillers have been taken care of. The large chiller has been working just fine. Actually, I've had more complaints lately that people are cold in this building as opposed to being too stuffy or too hot. But I'd much rather keep it a little on the cooler side, because it helps control the humidity in the building a little bit more, especially in the areas like the first floor where we have no supplies or exhaust anywhere in the hallways. So we've even added a small supplemental portable air conditioner to the deputy at the front door, just because that door opens so much during the day that it gets so hot in there with his uniform and then his protective vests underneath. So we've added an air conditioner there to help keep him comfortable. I started stuff on my budget already, and because that's coming up, end of the month, whatever it is, I don't know. I got a lot of stuff that I'll be asking for, so be prepared for that. I'm spending a lot of money already, but I got a lot more that I want to spend, so I've been working on it all year, so I've got a stack of stuff already that I want to ask for, about 10 inches high, so. I needed to I already went over the city stuff. The other stuff that I've reached out to the city that I'm trying to get clarification on is what the physical address of the new building is going to be. Because our address now is on Main Street, that's the way our doors face. Well, the doors now are going to technically be where Park Street is roughly, so is our address going to continue to be Main Street? Are we going to be Park Street, or are we going to be Hobson Street? I need that one just so I can give as much notice to the mailing address may stay the same. We're going to have a P.O. box for whatever, but I would like to get this building on the mail route, because I still find it very annoying that my department picks up the mail and drops off the mail twice a day. If I'm in the middle of something in the jail and it's 1:30, well, I got to stop what I'm doing or get one of my guys to stop what they're doing to go pick up mail. It ain't very far, but it's still, the post office drives by here every day. There's no reason that we can't get them to come here. I know it's one of the things that I've tried to do in the past, where a lot of the departments here are not too receptive to change, because even just changing the mail from 1:45 to 1:30 was a huge issue. But the fact that the mail would only get delivered and dropped off once a day, that's what happens at your house. You can kind of deal with it. If a department has something that needs to go out later in the afternoon, they can also go and drop it off at the post office as well. But like I said, I've asked the city. They're not sure yet. The post office says they're not the ones that's going to determine that, and they said it should be the city. So I'm still trying to figure out who's going to give me this address, but that's something I'm working on too. So I don't have too many other things. Like I said, just trying to work all these little things together with Tad across the street. But other than that, building's still standing. It's cool inside, and the work's scheduled to get done.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Any questions for Jeremy?
Just a comment. I don't know how open the state would be to it, but a temporary entrance and exit, that new parking lot from Main Street for prisoner drop-off and food would be ideal, since coming in from the other way is going to have to deal with a much more closed roads.
Yeah.
But I know from experience the state is reluctant to give you an entrance onto a federal highway.
Yeah, that's what I found as well, is if it's existing, I had no issues, but trying to add anything to the main highway that wasn't existing, not impossible, but it wasn't super easy. But I'll look into that, maybe removing a section of the front sidewalk there and having an egress into the new parking lot from there.
And it would only be temporary. Maybe the state would be a little more apt to be agreeable to that.
Which state are you talking about?
Okay, anything else for Jeremy? Well, thank you very much. Okay, we talked about the Building Oversight Committee already. Is there anything additional that we need to discuss referring to that group?
That's an item you can remove
Yep,
from your
remove,
agenda.
Yep. Okay, nothing then? Okay, how about items for the next agenda?
This isn't really an item for your next agenda, but I had forgotten, I was going to mention earlier that the public hearing on the vacating of Park Street is happening on September 14th at 6 p.m. in Basin Place.
Okay, thank you.
When's that happening?
September 14th.
September? So- It's a long ways
There's
off.
notice requirements that are required.
They have amount of time that it has to be put in public notice, and because the paper is only published weekly, it extends the time out.
Okay, I assume you want to be at our next meeting then too, so you want to be on the agenda?
Yep.
Okay, do we need anything on the addendum, or are we good with that? Can I have Paul cross that off?
We should be good on that.
So we shouldn't need anything with that then. Okay, does anybody know or think of anything else that we should add?
Just a couple of things for the minutes. That public hearing is September 14th. And Kurt, the budgeted amount for our dealing with the city on the utilities?
We were at 460.
460?
Yep, and
Okay.
it came in at 501.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on agenda items? Okay, our next thing is, when do we want to meet next? Because this was a crazy month, we met twice already. Do we want to go back to when we were normally meeting? Or? what do
Kurt,
we
is there
want-
anything in your
What would your
schedule?
normally scheduled meeting date be? Because if you only want to meet once a month, maybe we do it later in the month, like, like the 26th of August, because we might have bids for you then.
Okay, what we've been doing is we tried to get it before the county board meeting, but
Okay.
if it
Because
works.
then why don't we
if-
just, then do your regular schedule, then we can do a special one for just bids, because that's going to take some time. You may not want to mix the agendas.
Do we want to try and do two again in August? What's,
Well, are we still gonna try to meet before exec finance, or is that off the board now?
Exec finance is next Monday, so.
yeah, sec finance is on Monday.
You're gonna meet
But,
again.
no, I mean, for next month again, are we
Oh.
gonna continue to go before exec finance? Which would have to be the 26th, which we're talking about.
Up to you.
I like the 26th idea, but, that's, I will be gone for 10 days or something like that. So if you schedule anything in that August 9th or August 17th, 18th.
I don't need to meet with you guys prior to that from my perspective on the agenda. It's a matter of if you want to have one before then. I'll see what I can do in regards to the bid timing.
Well, the building project is the primary responsibility of this committee, so
So does August 26th sound like a good date?
good for me.
If nobody else has any pressing issues before that date? Okay, so we'll go August 26th, 9 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay, anybody else have anything they'd like addressed? Okay, sounds good then. I'll adjourn the meeting at 10:15. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
Right, Chris.